A fair warning, this video will recount disturbing stories related to bodily mutilation and mental anguish. These stories will be told to inform and educate about a major issue of our time. Hey there everyone! In this video, I'll be doing something a bit different from what usually appears on the channel. You may have heard me mention on this channel before a forum on Reddit called r/detrans. It's a community of people who share their experiences with becoming transgender and then eventually stopping. This is also known as detransitioning, hence detrans. I'm going to be sharing some of their stories with you all. I won't lie to you, they get pretty dark. For those not aware, gender transitioning usually involves body and mind-altering drugs, and in many cases, permanent surgery. So as you can imagine, once someone decides they're not transgender anymore, they have to live with the consequences of all those things. These stories come from men and women. They come from teenagers and fully grown adults. Some of the posters use their real name, while others remain anonymous. With transgenderism becoming rapidly more popular in recent years, stories like these need to be brought to light and heard. The purpose of this video is to educate. Links to all of the posts I'll be reading will be archived in the description. If you enjoy this style of video and would like to see more stories from Reddit, let me know in the comments. Before I begin, let me state a few important facts. The victims in these posts absolutely need to be heard, but there are many people who do not want their testaments to see the light of day. Many people would do anything, no matter how sinister, to prevent these experiences from being shared. They shatter a carefully crafted public image of gender transitioning that transgender advocates would like everyone to believe. Powerful forces on Reddit have tried for years to get this forum permanently shut down as a hate community. Fortunately, as of today, their efforts have failed and the forum remains online, though many similar communities have been banned. The fact that certain people want these stories silenced tells you the kind of gravity that they have. It's my belief that sharing them is vital to the current worldwide conversation about sex and gender. Hopefully with this information, we can all address the issue of transgenderism more honestly. And now, with that all clear, join me as we delve into the dark reality of transgender detransitioning. Story number 1. My consent was not informed. Burner account because I don't want to be harassed. I started transitioning when I was 16. A child. I had undiagnosed bipolar disorder, but no one bothered to screen me. If they did, they would have seen that I viewed transition as a way to throw myself away and try again. That I was traumatized by my childhood. That I self-harmed. But they didn't. They said congrats and handed me a referral. By the time I realized I was more depressed than ever before, I had already had a mastectomy and 2 years on testosterone. I was thrust into adulthood broken. I went through the detransition process, quit tea for over 5 years, and here at 27 I sleep 14 hours a day, my hair falls out, and I can't stop gaining weight. I decided I had enough and got a full medical workup done. My lab work revealed I have almost no female hormones. I will never have children. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. I have high cholesterol. I have cysts all over my ovaries. My primary care physician had to submit my results to a specialist because they were so unusually terrible, even for polycystic ovary syndrome. I will be on weekly injections, diabetes medication, and who knows what else for the rest of my life. And at this point, I have no idea if I will ever get back to feeling energetic, out of pain, and a little bit normal. When I signed those papers, I was not informed of any of this. I was a child, allowed to destroy my body permanently under the assurance that I can always change my mind, and that it's a beautiful, harmless process. The informed consent model is a lie, because we are just guinea pigs to a medical experiment. My life is permanently afflicted, and I was not informed. I only wish my experience could mean anything, but all it will ever be is internet harassment and an empty feeling. The medical community can't listen, and the trans community won't. Story number 2. Ruined my f***ing life. And for what? I just can't get over the fact that I ruined my life by transitioning as a 13-year-old, and now I have to try to undo it all as a 19-year-old. But I feel like it's just too late. All I ever wanted was to be happy, but this is the furthest thing from that I've ever been, and I'm really not coping. And to top it all off, I got feelings for someone who I damn well knew wasn't going to like me back, and broke my own heart like an idiot. I just can't help but feel like if I was a normal girl, maybe things would be different. Maybe he'd actually love me back. Guess I'll never know. I just don't know what to do, and it's not getting any easier as the days go by, just more and more complicated. I'm starting to be questioned by people about my gender, which I wasn't expecting so soon, and I don't know what to tell them. This whole thing is just horrible, and I wish I could go back and tell myself it wasn't worth it, but I can't. Now I'm stuck like this for good, and some days I feel like I just can't do it anymore. To transition is to waste the one life you have chasing a pipe dream that will never be set in reality. There is no way to truly change sex. To think there is living in a delusion. You may be happy for a time, but ultimately the fact you are living a lie will always prevail and ruin the facade you have allowed yourself to fall into. Every trans person must come to the realization that their birth sex is the only sex that is important, excluding intersex conditions which are more of a medical problem than proof of gender diversity. Don't even bother wasting your time. Trust me, it's not worth it. There are pros and cons of both sexes, but it comes down to the genetic lottery. DNA doesn't lie. Chromosomes don't lie. There is no such thing as being born in the wrong body. The body you're born with is the only one that has the ability to work as nature intended. Hormones and surgery are unnatural and can have devastating consequences, especially to children and teenagers who are unfortunate enough to be subjected to them. Get out while you can. Being trans is a one-way ticket to a miserable existence. Story 3. Socially transitioning has ruined my life. I am a 17-year-old girl, and up until January, I identified as a trans boy for a year. I cut off all my hair last year and went back to virtual schooling because of social anxiety. Because of this social anxiety, I spent a lot of my time on social media, mainly TikTok. TikTok fully convinced me that I was transgender, and being best friends with a trans man, who I was very jealous of for unrelated reasons, I felt absolutely immersed in this fantasy. I had never struggled with my gender before downloading TikTok, and I used to be a really pretty girl. Now my hair is barely chin length, and I have only one friend. My old friends believe me to be transphobic. Also, my mental health rapidly declined, and I treated my friends awfully, which is 100% my fault, and the final straw for them was me becoming a cis woman again. I am too embarrassed to even show my face because I live in a small town and everyone remembers. I don't know what I'm hoping to achieve with posting this. I just feel very alone, and I don't hate the trans community for what happened, but I feel like my high school experience has been robbed from me. I'm so f***ing grateful I realized this before I turned 18 and went through with my plans to medically transition. But socially transitioning has cost me both my happiness and relationships with other people. Even my relationship with my mother, who I always had an amazing relationship with, has become strained ever since I came out. I really miss my old self. In another comment, she wrote, "Even before I identified as trans, high school wasn't exactly great. It just hurts because I struggled with pretty bad mental illness. Even before I identified as trans, and my freshman year, things began looking up. I believed I'd be happy again. Unfortunately, this was also the year quarantine happened, and being isolated made me terrified to return to school. I feel like since quarantine, many young people like me felt alone, and began using trans identity to cope and almost shield themselves with it. But if you question it at all or go back, you're labeled a bigot and could never understand how hard it is for trans people. That's kind of the memo I've gotten from my old friends." Story number 4. Gender reassignment surgery rarely leads to true happiness. I'm trans, had sex reassignment surgery, and I absolutely regret this. What I regret even more is how the trans community keeps so many things hidden from those looking into getting body modification surgeries as extreme as gender reassignment surgery. Now before I read this, I should say I remove parts that describe in gory detail problems with this person's genitalia after their sex reassignment surgery. While that information is important, YouTube probably wouldn't like it. If you want to read those gory details after this video, the link to the full post is archived in the description. That said, there's still a lot in the post worth reading, so here we go. Trans woman here, sex reassignment surgery in 2014, 5.5 years post-op, and I can tell you one thing, I absolutely regret this. When I forget a couple of dilation sessions, it is just plain painful to get my dilation schedule started up again. But the trans community brushed my concerns off as nothing to worry about, or with bullshit like, all those horror stories on the internet were written by TERFs to scare you away from gender reassignment surgery. Well, I would have been better off to have chickened out. Not only have I dealt with long post-op depression, my genitals aren't as sensitive as they used to be. I wish I could have saved myself this sorrow. Now, for the rest of my transition. Did it make me happy? It made my life significantly more difficult. I am stealth, meaning that you keep your past hidden from others, and I am terrified that people will find out and discover my past. I still have gender dysphoria. I feel like I live in a male body that was molded to look like a female body. My body doesn't feel like a genuine female body at all. Finding a partner is almost impossible as a trans woman, even in my case, and I pass well as a female. Even if you find a partner, you always feel inadequate because you put them through a lot more struggle than they should have to go through. My story is fairly typical for the average male to female. Most keep all kinds of unresolved psychiatric problems, the distress always stays present, and there is general unhappiness in the community. Yet, transitioning is still positioned as a holy grail. Well, it's not. I wish there would have been other ways for me to deal with dysphoria. My health is also worse since I have been on hormones for a long period of time. My eyesight is significantly worse than before HRT, I have anxiety, and I have a slow metabolism. The trans community silences everyone who dares speak up against the narrative of a happy ever after, telling us we were never really trans, and so on. To this day, I live as a woman, and I absolutely regret living a transgender existence. I'm male, and nothing in the world can change that. The community needs to start telling the truth and not try to erase the bad and the ugly that comes with this transition. I have bladder discomfort and urinary tract infections very often since I had surgery, and my surgery was considered a success. I wonder how bad the less successful cases are wrecked when I am considered a success story in this physical situation. Things need to change. Once the excitement wears off, it's a highway to hell. Hey everyone, it's Pax again. So these stories are just some of thousands like them. If I tried to put even a fraction of all the stories there are into this video, it would go on for hours. But I think the stories I included give you an idea of the horror and misery that so many of these people go through. These posts shook me to my core, and I'm sure they did for many of you as well. Now, some people might object to this video and say that these stories are simply made up. In fact, that's the most common way transgender advocates sweep these experiences under the rug. And to be fair, many stories that appear on Reddit are bogus. But when thousands of people are all saying the same things over and over and over again, we can conclude that many of them are telling the truth. For my part, I checked the accounts of the non-anonymous users whose stories I told, and they were legitimate detransitioners. So, where does this all leave us? I'll leave that up to you, the viewer. But I will ask these simple questions. With everything you've heard here, should gender transitioning remain legal? Should it remain something that's glamorized in media? Should society continue to censor and ban critics of transgenderism? Let me know your answers to those questions down below. Personally, I can't think of a sicker society than one that pushes young people into things like this. These people needed spiritual help that only God can provide, not drugs. I wish the people in these stories nothing but the best and a full recovery. Your body may be hurt, but your spirit can still flourish. We can all learn something from their ability to face an experience so horrible and still come out on the other side wanting to help and warn others. I hope this video does what it can to spread awareness, so please share it with people you know, especially if they're suffering any of the issues talked about here. This has been Pax, and thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video.